Okay, welcome back, Father Dr. Anselm Adodo. Thank you for joining us again, and especially on our channel, the School of Soulidarity, which is about spirituality and soulful dialogue. What I say about this is that bringing sage wisdom back, practical sage wisdom back into conversations. And you are one such example. So thank you for being here again. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's pick up the thread from previously. We were talking about communitalism, and Pax Africana basically was a concept which I think it was an African scholar, Ali Mazrui, I think in 1967. Pax Africana, the concept started then. It was about peace building in Africa. And you built on that in a very practical, integral way, as we call it, that you have 4 PAXes. You know, PAX Herbals is that, you know, it's about community, PAX Communist, then PAX Spiritus, then PAX Scientia, and then Economia. So it's like an iteration, and starting from community, what we believe in, the integral way we say start local from community. So today we are going to now, I want you to bring out what is meant by, say, Pax Spiritus. Where is the manifestation of Spiritus in Pax Herbals? Especially your African philosophy or spirituality, which of course is different to, say, the spirituality I follow. So thank you so much, and let's start. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm familiar with the work of Ali Mazrui and his work, you know, and the origin of Pax Africana, and Ali Mazrui tried to explain mainly from the political and you know, economic point of view.
Yes.
My concept of Pax actually drew from a long Christian tradition, which went thousands of years before Ali Mazrui,
Yes.
and which is the Benedictine concept of Pax. And the Benedictine is an order in the Catholic Church. And going back to Christianity itself, you know, Christ, who says he has come to bring peace in the world, and who fought against any form of oppression of the poor, of the weak in the society. So his whole apostolate, you know, Christ preaching is about peace, both in the human person and in the society. And he said, I've come to bring liberation, to bring peace, hope to the oppressed. So I actually drew more from that. So my idea of PAX is not just about economic liberation, it's about spiritual liberation. So that's why I kept using the word integral, holistic, the whole person. And it's very, very crucial for us. So that's where I drew more from. So I say 4 dimensions of PAX or development, as we call it. The PAX, you know, scientia, the knowledge, which is the Western approach to development and you know, study. But before then, we have the community, the place where we come from, the community, the communists is so important, because at the end, that's where we came from somewhere. Nature, community, the environment. Because we all belong somewhere. We all have a name. Every human entity has a name. Every plant, every living being have a name. Apart from the name given to us at birth, the label, but we have a name that is so deep that describes our being. And my name is Anselm Adodo, but I have an identity even deeper than Anselm Adodo. My vision in life is to discover this name and live according to that name. And when I discover it, for me, I've discovered PAX, peace. That's the whole idea. So from there, I moved to the spirit, which we call awakening of consciousness. I need to move beyond myself to other people because I'm not alone in the world. And then, so we call it PAX Spiritus. The spirit. It's not just religion as such.
No.
Oh, yes, I'll call it more of the spirit, the spirit, the divine in everyone. And then from there, we move to work at, I call PAX Science Knowledge. So to let us know that our spirituality must be anchored in reality. So we are not just idealists. We know there will always be poor people in the world. There will always be injustice. There will always be countries where there are sufferings, there are wars, but we need to do what we can to resolve this by having conversations, by listening to other people, not by insisting on my own viewpoint only. So we call it, the co-creation, that we need to have conversations, both between Islam, Christianity, Jewish religion. I must not insist on my own way of interpreting reality, and I must not impose mine on others. And that's why we are even having this conversation. It's a good model of how it is. From whatever perspectives we are, we must be ready to listen.
And we meet in the middle. We meet in the
Yes, we meet
middle.
in the middle. Yes. Because we came from a community, but we also expand beyond that community.
I always tell my non-Muslim friends that even in the Quran, it's written clearly that God intended to make different nations, different races, different skin colors. I mean, it wasn't difficult for him to make all of us white or black or yellow or brown, all of us, and one nation. He could have done that. But I think this is the test for all of us, that how do we live together, being, having our own philosophies, spirituality, religion, way of being. How do we accept each other? And this is what we are, you and I and others in our communities and around the world, we are trying to do that. Thank you for explaining this beautifully. But today I would like you to also bring the spirit of nature power, as from a very spiritual perspective, how you see it. Because I know that you talk to plants, and I know we were together in Zimbabwe and you told me about this. And so what does that mean? I mean, what is nature power in a very spiritual sense from your perspective?
Thank you. Speaking about talking to plants, it's a symbolic way of expressing it. I have a colleague who lives in the UK, who actually wrote, he's a Nigerian, who wrote a book on opening to spirits, opening to spirits. And I like the title of that book. So for me, nature power is opening to spirit, to the spirit, and which draws our attention to the importance of listening, to listen. And it's a virtue which today in the world we seem to have lost, because we have gadgets that help us to talk, and we are asked to keep on talking. Telephone, mobile technology, TV, we just keep talking. But we have not invented a machine that can help us to listen and to listen to one another, and then to listen to what nature is telling us.
So even the neuro-linguistic experts are saying language is the problem between us. Half of the time we cannot communicate what we feel and what our thoughts are, and how it's then perceived by you that is the clash we have. So yeah, I totally agree with you. We need to listen more, talk less.
Yes. And when we're opening to the spirit, we can hear the unspoken language in people. Because from my work, from my experience, of practically every day, I sit down listening to people, and now I've learned that I hear more on what they are yet to say, what they didn't say, than what they say, and we need to learn to discern that, because to promote empathy in us. And talking about nature power, even when we speak about our well-being, the body speaks all the time, but we need to learn to listen to what our bodies are telling us and other people's bodies too. We need to learn even what the nature, the animals, the plants, the environment, what they are saying to us. And the climate change crisis, today could be described as inability to listen, because nature keeps telling us, the body keeps telling us to listen, but we have not learned to listen. So my own idea of nature power is to develop the virtue of listening. So when we listen to nature, to the plants, to the animals, we respect them, because they tell us that we can't do without them, just as they can't do without us. And we need to let them.
Let me stop you here. So when you say they can't do without us, the plants, so
Yes,
can you explain this more? Because I understand we can't do without plants or, herbs, and, our food comes from the earth. But when you
mhm.
say they can't do without us, what does that mean?
Well, remember, we breathe in the uh, we breathe in oxygen all the time. For the plants, they need the carbon monoxide that helps to help to regulate the ecosystem. And the way nature has been arranged is that we the plants, the nature, they need the human spirit elements to actually have a balance in the cosmos. God, the plants, they were here before we came. They were here before us in the order of creation. But they need us. We need to harvest the plants
Mm.
and fertilize the soil too, so that there can be a balance in the ecosystem. So
This is
the
what I call the reciprocity. And this is what I call
yes,
solidarity, is that reciprocity of,
yes,
the essence, the spiritual. It's all linked. But thank you. This is beautiful. I
yes,
love that.
yes, the symbiotic, cosmos. I mean, we are all linked together, and it's not in terms of who is superior or inferior.
Mm,
It's actually in a circular, those your diagrams where everything is actually in a circle.
mm,
So it's not who is superior or inferior, but how we relate together.
mm,
And I think that is important both for individual spirituality and for societal spirituality. We need to learn to see reality uh,
mm,
in a circle,
mm,
not in a diagram where you have the top one and the bottom one.
mhm,
And those are the bottom, they want to catch up with those who are at the top. But in nature,
mm,
there's nothing to catch up with. There's
mm.
just connections. That is what we need.
But you see, this is the indigenous wisdom that people knew. The indigenous people knew, and
Mm,
they still know. And they didn't
mm,
have to experiment like millions of experiments scientifically to prove this. I mean,
mm,
quantum physics is coming to you, the quantum is coming to, the whole philosophy is around that. It's coming to that we are particles and how we are interconnected, and and there's this expansion and contraction, and we are all part of it. Science
mm,
is trying to prove that, but the
mm,
indigenous people knew, and they still know that. It just naturally comes to you because when you look around your ecology.
mm,
And this is the message I think we have forgotten, but thanks to people like you who are bringing this message back. And I think your community is also benefiting from that. Tell me about the young people, because today in the world, there is this resistance, especially, I mean, everybody has their own version of spirituality, and I'm fine with that. But when it comes to anchoring that spirituality into something like the divine, people have this resistance always. So how do you see that, especially in a Nigerian African context? That is the youth open to this, or do they also have a resistance to this kind of divine nature power?
Yeah, I think the young people of today, they resist religiosity. They resist religion that tends to hide under the divine to control people and tie them down to a belief, certain way of thinking. But the young people of today, they don't want that. But they are very spiritual. They like the concept of being in touch with themselves because at the end of the day, we are all craving for meaning. So the definition of the human person in the olden days is somebody who is seeking for meaning, who's on a journey, searching for meaning. And that applies to everyone, wherever you are. And so I tend to think that the young people, they resist, they don't want to go to a physical church or a mosque or whatever because of what they have read in history. So I think there's more interest in another way of describing the spiritual now. And the challenge is, are we ready to adapt our language, our system to the current reality? So the problem could actually be with the adults, the so-called adults, who are not ready to change their understanding, their way. While the young people are more open. What is good. People see it. What is bad in any part of the world. People see it. But it is religiosity to want to paint what is bad as good, because people can see through it. So in Nigeria, I think there's that drive, but it is manifesting itself more in their protests, in their demand for better economic policies, in better education. No, it is expressing itself more in that manner. But hopefully they know that it is deeper than better economics or better economic system, political systems, but it is a sign of that desire for meaning in life. So it expresses itself in different forms in different countries. I don't know about Europe, but I think it expresses itself more in just this resistance to anything old. People just want to do something new that is just different from the way it has always been. But when you come close, it's the same thing, the same desire for meaning, for humanness. And so I think that is the challenge of today. Are we ready for this new understanding, this new approach to the divine? And that's what you are doing in Soulidarity. The spirit is dynamic, cannot be tied down to any particular way of seeing reality.
It's a
dynamic.
continuum. It's a continuum.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
expresses in million ways itself.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's why you've adopted this nature power language, because that kind of approaches any living person knows that, oh yes, I depend on plants and food. My food comes from there and I'm part of the ecology. I think the word ecology, especially from a Christian, I went to I'm part of Economy of Francisco, and we went to CC, and there's the whole movement around integral ecology, which is actually about, what you are saying, that we are part of nature. And in a very, it's the spirit. So I like the fact that you've adopted that language. But how do we then bring that language mainstream? I know you're working on it already.
Yes, I'm working on it, trying to express, in the language that people can understand. I remember many years ago, the idea of nature power was very offensive to many people, especially many Christians, because they were brought up to think that what is traditional and natural is associated with fetishism, with
Oh,
worshiping of idols. So there was a lot of backlash, but I knew,
really? I didn't
yes,
know
so
about this.
yeah,
Okay.
a lot of resistance, and but I knew it was false teaching, trying to set Christianity against the traditional way of worshiping, and but gradually over the years, some 15 years ago, I was regarded as a strange priest because normally as a priest, you are the opposite of nature, of doing something, promoting culture. But things have changed drastically now that you now have bishops, priests, even the Pope speaking very openly, supporting nature, but it has not always been like that. And
Mm,
uh, and the point I'm making from that is sometimes ideas will come a bit early, but we need persistence, conviction to stay the course and wait for people to catch up with the ideas. So I think today people have now caught up with the idea of nature power, and I believe today the world is open to
mm,
understand these ideas. Now that we have the teaching hospitals across Africa and Nigeria, where we now speak about alternative therapies, even herbal medicine. It wasn't so in the
mm,
past. So I think the time has come. Now,
mhm.
all the talk about global warming, climate change is actually taking us back to
Yes.
nature. Yeah, it's taking us back.
Yes.
What did we not do? What did we neglect to do over these years that now we can go back to and
Mm,
do them to bring balance into the world? So I
yeah.
think they are already speaking that language.
Yes.
Even, yes, they are speaking it already in different ways. But
Yes.
we now know that nature, if we don't respect nature, it will destroy us because that is the law. We must keep the law and
Mm,
respect it. Otherwise,
yeah.
we destroy ourselves, destroy the yes, the cosmos.
That's why we were made stewards of on earth. We were sent as
Yes.
stewards on earth to, look after the matters of divine, actually, ordinance, as in look after each other. And it's all very spiritual in so many ways, yet it's not
Mm,
spoken about in that way, because I think spirituality has also taken a wrong turn. I know
mm,
everybody talks about spirituality nowadays, but I think what you are saying is making sense to me. That's why I'm constantly noting, because this is what in the Quran is also said in that way, especially about
mm,
balance. To keep balance, always take the middle path. Don't go to extreme, and justice and
mm.
compassion. The language, I think, language could be different, but we
Yeah.
all are
Mm,
sort of, as you rightly said, we're expressing. I think nature is expressing in its own way through us.
mm.
Um, okay, that's beautiful. But I would still bring you back to spirituality, especially in African context.
Mm.
So give us something about. Uh, I understand it's Christianity, but Yoruba spirituality. What is the difference, or how did you bring them together?
Yes, I've never seen the Yoruba spirituality as contradictory to the Christian spirituality or to Catholic spirituality. I've always seen them as different dimensions of the same reality because we all believe in God, but we're also aware that the way we worship God and interpret reality is conditioned by our environment. That is simply the reality. if I were to have been born somewhere in Pakistan or Saudi Arabia, I would have been a Muslim anyway. So, and so to a great extent, I cannot even claim the credit for being a Christian or a Yoruba. It is the reality of my condition. And so the Yoruba spirituality puts emphasis about character, the importance of humanity is very crucial, and that religion should be an evolution of the key elements in the human person. So if I speak the truth, that is not yet a spirituality. It's just a human thing. I mean, it's human for me to just say the truth the way it is. Or if you give me something to keep for you, I should keep it. That is not yet spirituality. It's just being human. So we need to raise the bar higher and say, no, the spirituality is actually to let go of my ego, to let it die. And so long as that ego is there, I don't yet have a spirituality. So I'm only building my ego under the guide of spirituality. The spirituality we are speaking about is to let the ego die. But for it to die, I need to recognize it and see it in myself and be humble enough to acknowledge that, look, I have a problem. I'm too proud. I'm too selfish. I let it be. So for me, my Yoruba religion helped me to see this more and see the connection between what I do and what I say. And so for me, I think it is good. But there's a problem in the Bible. People misinterpreted the Bible because there are some passages that says that God has given the world to human beings to rule over the world, dominate it, exploit it, do it as you wish. So people now think they can treat nature the way they want, dominate it. But it was a wrong interpretation of that passage. As we said, we are meant to be stewards in the world, really. But we even came last in the order of creation. So for me, my spirituality, my Yoruba culture helped me to recognize this easily. That if people come to me, if I can't help them, I should at least leave them the way I met them. But I shouldn't leave them worse than I met them.
Yeah. Yes.
So for me, that is what spirituality is about. So when people come to us, we destroy them, we wound them, and leave them worse than they have come to us. Then we have no spirituality.
Beautiful. Wonderful. I think I would like to keep it short and sweet. And this is a beautiful way to end this conversation. And thank you for explaining the PAX Spiritus, especially in your PAX Herbal, and the essence of nature power in an African and also the Christian way. So we'll continue. I hopefully will continue this conversation. Maybe I'll come up with another topic and call you back in. But thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.